I'm Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And here we go. I am so happy that you're tuning into today's segment of The Power of Money. And I have an extraordinary guest on this show today. In honor of Life Insurance Month, which is September, I have on as my guest via Skype a gentleman who is the oldest life insurance agent licensed in the state of Georgia. And I just had to have him on. And why? Because let me tell you all something today. Age is nothing but a number. And just because he is the oldest just means that you get the best of the best. So sit down, relax, and enjoy this interview with Bud Holcomb out of Atlanta, Georgia, who was recently acknowledged as the oldest life insurance agent in the state of Georgia and probably in the United States. So here we go. Bud.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you. It's been a little bumpy trying to get on air, but I'm glad to have you here with me for this. I'm glad. How's the weather down there today?
Weather is beautiful.
I know.
Started out about 73 early morning. It'll be about 95 today.
And I'm sure at 95 you're going to be in the house.
And I'm going to stay home.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Let's, first thing I wanted to thank you for your patience in dealing with this technology. Again, Skype is amazing, wonderful. If all the technology is crisp and you don't have any challenges, our people here are excellent, but sometimes it can be bumpy. So I appreciate your patience in getting you on the set and interviewing you and hearing about your world as a senior in the world of life insurance. How old are you, Bud?
I'm 88.
You're 88 years old.
But I'll be 89 in January.
You'll be 89 in January. You say that like that's just no big deal.
Well, it's no big deal. Now that I've passed 80, and I've had 3 cancer surgeries over the years, and God's been good to me.
Yes, he has.
I'm still active. I depend on the miracles and the blessings, and I tell him how proud I am about it every morning.
Yes. So what did you find about being, as you approach 89 and as a licensed insurance agent, what changes have you seen in the consumer?
Oh, in the consumer?
Yes.
Well, the consumer is more because of television, I guess, and the television and actually computers. The public is getting more informed, and so it's not as difficult to talk to them about my product now as it was, say, 30, 40 years ago. In fact, 60, 50 years ago, uh, when I was young, I could not, in fact, sell easily to young people because A, they're not going to die, so they don't need life insurance. And when you question them about the living benefits, well, they're not going to live that long to retire, and they're controversial in their own self. And then, for the most part, they have to be 35 to 40 before they realize not just their mortality, but the fact that they now have responsibilities. Because when they're 19 to 25, most of the time they're still single or they're struggling, um, lower income, so they don't do as they don't aren't interested in. They're only interested in now and staying alive. So as they progress in years, the public changes, and then they're more informed now.
You think that's the big thing?
And so that really it's almost easy once you get into a conversation with them, then they're already as much informed. In fact, I do a lot of Medicare supplements right now,
Okay.
and I talked to a lady Sunday. She bought a Medicare supplement, well, actually a Medicare plan that I have, and she told me what she wanted because she already researched it on the internet. And she told me, so let's look up my drugs, she said. And so we got back on the computer and we found out her drugs were covered and everything was cool. In fact, she had done most of the work. Now, that's not typical of my situation, but it goes from dragging people screaming and hollering to the table of signing an application to now where they're almost telling you what they want.
Does
So
that
whenever-
make your, Bud, does that make your job more difficult, perhaps? Because they know what they want? If it's not what they, if, let's put it like this, if what they want is really not what they need, how do you cover that as an agent?
Then I have to, we just have a long talk. I will not do a sales event without we have a lot of conversation. Basically, I'm a very shy person anyway, so they almost have to start the conversation. But once we talk about it, when I know what they want, then I want to find out what they really need. And sometimes they want what they need. Sometimes they only need something different, and I provide that for them. And of course, there again, it depends on what they're looking for, retirement or just temporary life insurance to take care of their family in case they go early. And but we have to handle it one-on-one, actually, once we get into that part of the conversation.
So let me ask you, would you say the majority, given your age, and for those of you that are just tuning in, I am interviewing James Bud Holcomb out of Georgia. He's 89, soon to be 89 years old in a couple of months. He is the oldest insurance agent in the state of Georgia. And I just had to talk to him because he is so amazing. So, of your clientele, what percent would you say are younger people, meaning under 40, and what percent are super elderly people, like over 80?
Oh, only about 10% of my people are over 80.
Oh, wow.
About 70% is in between 25 and 65, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So the younger ones, how easy is that to talk to them about life insurance?
Well, it's almost as difficult as it was 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because even though they're informed, they're not willing to to accept it yet that they have an actual problem. And
That's a,
and that's and that's more and more prevalent than it used to be, really. Even though they're exposed more to the knowledge, well, now the knowledge is kind of like in school. You only get the knowledge and you keep it long enough to graduate in many cases.
so let me ask you if they have the knowledge, but they don't have the understanding of why,
Well, that's where I come in.
okay, and what do you tell them?
And so I explained to them that I just go through it exactly like I would have done if they had come to me or if I had come to them with no knowledge at all. Because basically, what it boils down to is most everybody, even though they're informed, they have a little bit more information available. They haven't been uh, they haven't been, taking it. And so they end up, I still have to do that part of my job.
Do they have at that age any concerns about insurability, like due to health issues? Has that hit them yet?
But once we get to talking about it, um, that's what we use is what it really motivates them to even inquire. Is it now they've been told or they know somebody with a health issue? So now they have, they've experienced just a little thing, but it pointed out to them that there is a mortality problem here, and we need to address it. And of course, insurance is the next thing. A will is important, which I point out to them in almost every case, young or old. They all need that part of their. We do portfolio selling a lot, where we actually cover all the bases, and we're not experts in most of the field, but we can give the advice and lead them to the right people, attorneys or whatever, that will help them.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this, because I've got so many things I want to ask you in terms of where you have been in life and the things that you have experienced. Would you say it's a fair statement that people, by the time they get our age, because I'm a little younger than you, hope to live as long as you are living and in the health condition you are living in, do you find that older people that you deal with are still trying to figure it out?
Oh, many times. Uh, I go to church um, where the older people still outnumber the younger people,
Okay.
and we've got them at all different age and ideas, and their theories vary from. It doesn't seem to matter, but the older they are, a lot of them are still. They're now living on a smaller income. Oh, gee, we should have prepared for this. But now it's almost too late. Well, maybe not. Maybe I can help you with that. Or now we need something that fits our new budget. Well, I think I've got something that might help you with that. Let's talk.
And what is their level of receptivity when you approach them
And
like that?
okay, when I approach them like that, usually they've mentioned it themselves. They get the conversation going, and like I'm saying, I'm very shy, and they we once we get a conversation started, then most of the time they're receptive. In fact, I would say 90% of that time, they don't always buy something right at the moment, but they're at least receiving the information and I mean accepting the information, and we do fine with that.
So
Hey, go ahead.
So let me ask the question. At that age, do most of them already have life insurance?
Most of them, yes. But like a lot of it now, particularly the younger people, um, start off and they'll end up listening to the theory about back when I was at the University of Georgia, and they have an excellent insurance program there.
Yes, they do.
And the one of the theories a long time ago, in fact, at the time I was there, but I was at the Atlanta division, and this man was in Athens, and he had the idea that people should buy term insurance and invest the difference.
I know. I know
It's,
what you're talking about.
it's a great concept,
Great concept.
but it is a concept, that's all. Because for this reason, it's workable, and he proved it out. He encouraged people to go ahead and pay the regular price they would have paid for a certain type of life insurance, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to provide you with term insurance, and I'm going to put the rest of this into a savings account. And here's the way it's going to grow. And he made it work out. Well, then he got to fooling with the ideas, and people were on their own would have bought just the term insurance and forgot the other because they're living on this other money.
Right.
And so now they've ended up buying the life insurance from him, and eventually they terminate this savings part of it because there were too many catches in it to where that savings was being eaten up by premiums. And so the original concept was good,
But,
and it became diluted over the years. Too many people got involved, and the company that he formed is still in business, but it's been changed hands several times because it spread too quickly, and there were lawsuits and a few other things. But but the concept is good, and our local one of our local uh, um, news people here, um, Clark Howard. He advocates the same thing: buy
right.
term and invest the difference. It's still a good concept if you'll do it. But the
But
people,
you and I both know, Bud, because let me give you a little bit of insight. I sat on the committee many years ago for a major reinsurance carrier. And I sat on the committee representing the investment side of that insurance carrier. And that particular company came to us to see if we would reinsure them for that product, buy term and invest the difference. I'm not bringing up any names, but you and I are talking about the same people.
yes, we are.
And I turned it down, not because of the logic and the financial perspective, but because human nature is never going to change.
Right.
And that is that if you bought a cheap term policy and used the savings component to invest in the market, which is a flaky thing on a good day, unless it's a guarantee like a bond fund, you're going to spend the money on lifestyle. And that
Right.
is exactly what happened. That is, we did not accept them as a client because I was absolutely resolute that humans are going to take the savings and spend it. It takes a very disciplined person to not spend money they didn't have. It
Right.
just is. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's exactly what I thought. In fact, that's the one thing I pull out with Clark Howard about because he doesn't go far. But he's talking to people who are disciplined. The ones that are doing what he says do are disciplined enough, or else they're doing what I did is spend the money now.
Yeah,
But the um, I advocate a middle of the road concept. buy a small $25 to $50,000 base policy.
Okay.
Put the amount of term insurance on there that's required to continue your family's lifestyle the way you projected it, and give them money to live on and educate the children and et cetera, until the widow is ready to draw her Social Security, and then give her a little something to extend that. In the meantime, that $50,000 or $25,000 plan, if you live beyond the time when the term insurance becomes too expensive, because as it renews over the years, most of the time it renews at of course, obviously at a higher rate, because you're now older, and it doesn't give you go back to the original figures, age. I mean, and so now and they'll do it on an annual basis, which means it can go up every year.
Right.
And I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it forever, in all over the country, that people end up with no insurance because they didn't do the basic policy, and they didn't follow the other rule of investing the difference. So with that in mind, it's what happens.
Well, I will tell you in my situation, I had 3 children. I had my own private practice, and I was a divorcee. And at that time, I took out a base plan of $50,000 whole life. I did not do universal life because I was real wonky about that too. Going back to where I sat at the table, and we were constructing different insurance plans. Didn't feel comfortable, so I had a base plan, but I also added on to my life, because I had 3 children, but I added on $3 million worth of term. And before you say why, well, my mother, who's a Southern woman, said, if you expire for whatever reason, you better have enough insurance to educate these children, to make sure that I have a lifestyle that I'm comfortable with, and your dad is not stressed out from these children. So I figured with $3 million of term, which was very inexpensive because I was in my 30s at that time, and it was a level term. The premiums would not increase for 20 years. And I figured at 20 years, they'd be adult and on to something else, and I would have my base plan. And that's exactly what I did. I kept that going, and again, as they graduated from college and went on, I dropped a component until the 3rd one, and then I dropped the entire plan. And it could be argued that, well, geez, that's money you just blew. But you and I both know that for me to buy a whole life contract for $3 million would have broke the bank.
Certainly.
It would have broke the bank. So that's what I did. And it wasn't because of any guru. It was just common sense. You got to take care of your children.
Right.
You do. So are people thinking that way today? I mean, I'm going to say you're 89 because in 3 months you will be 89. I mean, I'm serious, bud. Georgia man. I mean, come on. Have people changed? Are they thinking like that, or are they trying to play the casino and play the market?
Yeah. I really don't know, because what I'm finding is exactly what you're talking about, is that people are not, they are now buying, I mean, what I recommend, a base policy. In my own case, I had only $1 million or $2 million on term, but I had a $5,000 life insurance policy, because way back then, that would have been enough to take care of my final expenses with no trouble. Of course, now it would take more than that for that, but I've already arranged it. So I don't have to worry about that $5,000. But that's really what I have left, is a $5,000 policy, because the term insurance is gone. It was there when I needed it.
Yep.
And I now have my my personal affairs are pretty much in order. Um, I do check regularly with my funeral home to make sure that I don't outlive my funeral director. Because recently my doctor told me that I better start making arrangements, and I took that to mean that I'm going to die right away. So I went to my preacher and I said, I'm your insurance man, and I want you to sing at my funeral. So you got to keep going to your doctor, and because you haven't you've been sick lately, and I want to keep you around. And then I went to my funeral director to be sure that everything was on, because I asked him, can I still have Oak Ridge Boys sing at my funeral? And he said, no, you didn't put enough money aside for the Oak Ridge Boys. Would you consider a recording? I said, that's fine. So now we've got that all taken care of. Well, it turned out that the diagnosis was a little bit off, because I got well the next week. And the x-rays and everything had either we had a false reading or my prayers were answered. And I choose to think it's my prayers,
I think so.
because I've had cancer 3 times, and every time I died twice, and the Lord brought me back, and hopefully He has something really good in mind.
Oh, I
But
think so.
but
I think
am
so.
still here, and my children are all my son had surgery this morning, and he's in recovery now, and he's okay. He had prostate cancer,
Mm.
and he's 64, and my baby girl is working, and she texted me a minute ago and said that everything was fine, that David was out of surgery and in recovery. So another blessing.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Because it would be hard pressed at your age, approaching 89, and having seen so many people who have not made it to the finish line. They're leaving here in their 60s, and affairs not in order, not in order. Families posting GoFundMe pages. What do you think about all this?
I'm really devastated because I didn't get to them in time.
Ah,
It really, it bothers me because they've given every opportunity and they've ignored it, and it bothers me that me or somebody like me wouldn't be talking to them all the time and encouraging them. I know people don't really like to talk about life insurance. They talk about, but if you'll notice that the every time when you listen to the news, the commercials will interrupt and say, you can buy life insurance now with no medical history at all. And I sell those. I've got 5 companies that do the term, guaranteed life
guaranteed issue.
guaranteed issue. And but still, and I know these people, but it costs money for those things, the commercials. So I have to think that they're somehow it's paying off for them.
Mm-hmm.
But every week I talk to somebody, sometimes every day of the week, about their just that basic thing of what is going to happen when you die. My own children want to be cremated, so it won't cost them as much. But they've got enough for that. But we all need to think about it, and we need to wake up. But and I don't know what's really going to happen. I don't know. But I watch it happen, and and by the time it's too late for me to have been around, truth is I couldn't see them all anyway.
Mm.
and that's a shame.
It
And
is.
I don't have a website, so it's not going to be important.
Well, I think that you are a touch person and that websites may not necessarily do you a lot of benefit because the bottom line is if a person can look at you, and I'm looking at you now, and I'm like, this man is getting ready to cross into 89 and 90. You're still working every day. You're still doing your stuff. God's given you life and breath and strength. And those are commendable, particularly when you look at the alternatives. But I just came from my 50th class reunion.
Hmm.
Yes, and I was responsible. This was Walnut Hills High School is the number one uh, public high school in Ohio and one of the top 50 in the United States. They graduate illustrious people, but I was given the assignment of reading off all the names of our classmates who have died since we graduated 50 years ago.
Wow.
And the list was staggering. And it was heartbreaking to read it. And again, everybody in the audience, all the attendees, it was absolute silence because I think people began to realize this is no joking matter. People do leave, and they leave every day. And so, what do you leave behind as a legacy? Do you dance all the way to the grave site, or do you order your steps so that you will have a foundation for your heirs, for your children, your grandchildren? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what I think. You about hit it on the head. I went to, how many were in your graduating class?
I'm listening.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, how many were in your graduating class?
Who?
How
I
many?
graduated. I'll be 68 in a couple of months.
No, I meant how many were in your graduating class?
Oh, we had a graduating class from Walnut Hills of about 300.
Yeah, well, ours was 130, and on our 50th, 100 were still there.
Oh my goodness. So 50 were
So,
gone. So you had a 30% loss.
right,
Okay. That's about where we were. 30%.
yeah,
And then 3 had passed before a couple of days before our gathering.
right.
3 more had passed.
Well, after that, we started having our class reunions like we were doing them every 5 years.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, we started doing them like 2 years, and then
Every
3 years,
2 years. Well,
two more years, and 3 years,
we
so that we
decided
could
we're
get
going to go for 5, Bud, but I'm like, okay, I don't know. Folks are kind of dropping off like flies.
well,
But
that was our reasoning. It was going off too fast,
yeah, yeah,
so we thought we better do something about that. And
yeah.
then now we're down to about 30 people left out of 130.
Okay, you have
Uh,
30 left.
but we probably will not have another. Well, I know we're not going to have another reunion because the last one only 12 people came,
Ah,
and we live the further. We live probably. Well, no, I guess we don't live the furthest away. But of the people that came, we were almost the furthest away.
yeah.
We have people. We were in southern Illinois. It was a big oil uh, discovery, well, rediscovery in that area. So we had oil people in, and our town grew up from 4,000 to 8,000 people real quick. And so a lot of my classmates, even though they lived out in the country and had one-room schoolhouses, when the high school it was a county high school, so they were inside. They came into the city with busing, and then and that's the only reason we were that big.
Mm,
And then when we graduated, then they were distributed all over the country, some as far as California.
Okay.
Some of them were in Arizona and Colorado and Mississippi and Louisiana. More oil. They were dispersed around oil areas,
Mm-hmm.
and and some of them came, and some of them that we really were close to have died. So and I'm having to keep track locally just to be sure. I don't have enough people to bury me.
Oh, please. You got kids.
And well, yeah, but I need some friends or two.
I know.
And the ones I thought were going to be, well, my best friend has bone cancer,
Mm,
and he needs back surgery right
mm.
now too, and he can't do one without it irritate the other. But these are little things,
I don't
and
know if they're little things or not, Bud. That's one of the takeaways from this weekend that I experienced. It was an awesome, awesome event, just awesome. But what I could not help noticing, Bud, that when you get older, things begin to change.
well,
And they change, I mean, they change. Everything begins to shift.
yes,
What are
yeah,
your thoughts on that?
all the little things in life become important things, and the things that you used to think were important are not.
Right.
That new car, that new house, that this, that, and the fancy restaurants. Eat at home. It's just a blessing to be able to eat.
It's, I was sharing with one of my classmates because of the number of people that I graduated with that came from significant wealth, their families, and now here they are. And Bud, they look rough. The money wasn't enough. I don't know. You say to yourself, all your investment savvy, I wonder if you would, how much you would pay to be able to live a happy, joyous, healthy life with
Right.
all your money. Because I kept seeing that in front of me, which is so many people that had a quest for wealth and all of this, and yet they were not aging well at all.
You would think that the exercise of running after the money would do for 'em.
You would think so. But
Yeah.
even myself, I tell people that I had to make some changes. I've been the money lady for, gosh, almost 40 years now. And I finally, a couple of years ago, maybe a little longer, that concluded that money is meaningless, absolutely meaningless, if you have not invested in people, if you have not invested in yourself in terms of good health and loving others, if you have not invested in your spiritual growth by recognizing that you are not a God, that you have mortality, and that you must plan. And you have to plan these things or else it's not going to happen. What are your
That's,
thoughts on that?
that's exactly my thoughts on that. It's the way, well, it's the way I live, and it's the way I will, in fact, die. Uh, my, uh, we, I put a lot of, well, I mean, I don't have a lot of money. I never hoped to have a lot of money. And so that worked out real good.
Well, your
But
estate will not be so, well, you have a wife, so you want to make sure she's okay.
well, she's my new wife,
Oh, okay. Well, you
and
want
I
to make
do,
sure she's
and I
really
do
okay.
take, pardon me?
I said, you want to make sure she's really okay.
That's right. We've been married 58 years,
Oh, my goodness.
and
58 years.
I've got a picture on my desk. It's her in her bikini bathing suit,
Uh-huh.
and that um, was taken when she was 39 years old, and it was our first grandchild was born,
Yes.
and she looked good.
She must still look good. You still in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I take
That's a
care of
beautiful story.
them.
That's a beautiful life. You don't find people today holding on like that, Bud.
Well, we've both been married before, and we learned, I hope, that lesson to where, and I hope our respective spouses have learned the same lesson so that they can go on. But we just don't dwell on little things.
Yeah.
In fact, the way I explain it is that we've never had a fuss because I'm not going to fuss with somebody that can whip me.
Yeah.
And secondly, we discuss it, then we compromise. We do it her way.
You do it her way.
Yeah,
That may explain why you're still alive, Bud.
it's a great compromise.
I was going to say, you get to live, and
And
she's
that's right.
happy.
And what's the Oriental phrase of happy day? I mean, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
And that's been your moniker. You think
And
that accounts for your longevity to 89?
that's part of it. And also, I keep moving.
Okay.
Yeah, every morning, I'm going to read to you. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakes up and knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running.
Yes, yes.
Now, that's kept me going for a long time.
When the
That
sun comes up, you better be running.
and a morning prayer will start you off good. And that's before the coffee.
Before the coffee.
Yeah, I bring her a cup of coffee every morning in the bed and to get her wide awake, and then I'll fix her some breakfast, and the rest of the day is up to her because I'm gonna be in the office, which is in my office right here in my house, and we take it from there
So you still work every day?
every day,
Oh my goodness.
and I dress for work every day.
You mean suit and tie dress?
Well, I don't have a tie.
Okay, but you do put on a jacket?
I do. Well, when I go out.
Yes. But you do
yeah.
not sit in your office in a bath towel.
No, no. I tried that and it was not comfortable at all because I thought, this is not me.
Right.
And so I didn't do it. I've got another slogan that says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger,
Yes.
except for bears. Bears will kill you.
Except for bears. Woo, Bud. Except
That
for
and a
bears.
picture, that and a picture of Jesus is what's on my wall.
Yes. Yes. Well, do you feel that your spiritual foundation has been instrumental in your success and longevity?
I'm certain that it was. Because, see, it didn't start off like that, as many of us don't. I was a Christian when I was baptized as a child, I'm sure. But you don't. I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with a fine, loving family, and we went to church. But I think I was kind of lukewarm about it all. I'm going to cover this in my book.
You're writing a book.
Well, I'm a little bit slow about it. I started the book I was going to give the chapter 7 to my wife as a present on our 50th anniversary. We're about to have number 59 in a couple of months, and I still haven't finished chapter 7. Well,
Okay.
it's in my head, but I've got to put it on writing. I've got it started, and then I get away from it, and then I write a I write some excerpts for the rest of the book because I'm going to put little the things that we've done together over the years, which uh, would not be important to other people anyway. But and they probably won't buy the book, and they shouldn't
I wouldn't
because
say that. I wouldn't
well,
say that at all.
but she's the most important thing I ever did was to marry her and become active in a church, in my church.
That's beautiful.
And
That's
so,
beautiful.
so she deserves whatever I can give her.
That's so
And,
beautiful.
and we worked together doing it. She worked side by side with me for 25 of those years when we had our own agency.
So your wife was in the business with you.
Yes, yeah, she
Mm.
was.
How did that work out?
Oh, it worked great. Like I say, there were no arguments, and it was all compromise. And it turns out her ideas were better than mine to begin with. So it worked out good.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful statement to her,
I,
though.
I made a
That's
lot of promises to her when we married. I said, you know, marry me and I'll take you to all kinds of exotic places. Because the companies that I worked for, Prudential and Metropolitan and
right.
others, all gave prizes. You know, they gave trips
Right.
as bonuses. Well, I knew I could win trips. So that was a safe bet. So she married me, and I took her for 30 years. I took her someplace every year at the company's expense.
Okay.
And in the meantime, but after I bought a little agency up in about 20 miles from where I am now, and we began to build on it. And I won some trips, but there weren't as many companies giving trips.
Things have
And so,
changed.
they dwindled off. I only had a few after that.
Mm-hmm.
But then that was 25 years. In that 25-year span, why that was part of the 30 things. But it tapered off to where only one company a year, and it wasn't one that I was giving a whole lot of business to. So it didn't. We were all diversified at that point.
Yeah. Well, things, of course, you already know this, but things have changed in terms of even being involved with companies as an employee. Everybody's on their own. Nobody's captive today because companies don't want to pay the overhead or the expense. And so you have to be strongly self-motivated and
Right.
committed to what you are doing. And of course, you coming out of that industry, when I did the math, you started in this business at about 30 years old. Is that right?
Well, younger than that, I came down here to go to college, and I enrolled. And my first job was at an insurance and real estate office. So I real quickly got a real estate license and insurance licenses. And
How,
then 3 or 4 years later, I got a life insurance license after that. So that was
so
1954.
1954, so how old were you then?
And then I was, let's see, 23.
23. So
Yeah,
from 23 to fast approaching age 89, you have been in this business.
yeah.
My goodness, Bud.
But it's been
That's
fun.
astounding.
Well, hey, show you how little motivated I was. I just wanted to meet girls. And so I thought, selling insurance ought to be a great way to meet girls.
Well, at 23, that's where your mind would be.
And yeah, and
I mean,
that's
males at 23, I mean, their lives are pretty basic. Drink, party, and meet girls.
yeah. So in 1960, I met what's her name, and that stopped the rest of it.
I hear you.
I was getting a divorce right about that time, and at that moment I said, I will never have another meaning relationship with a woman. So I went out that day because she called me and said, meet me in my attorney's office on Thursday, and we'll get our divorce your way. And I said, okay. So I met her, but in the meantime, that day I went out looking for some new life and health prospects, and I stuck my head in office doors in Atlanta, and I said, nobody in here wants to buy any life insurance, do they? And this one lady said, well, I might come in here. We'll talk about it. And she bought some insurance. And that night, after thinking about it, I thought, oh, she was pretty. I think I'll call her and see if she wants to go out with me. So I called her and she said, what'd you forget? I said, well, what about insurance? It was about me this time. I wanted to ask you, did you like to dance? She said, I go about 6 nights a week now if I get a ride. I said, guess what? I got a car. You want to go dancing Saturday night? She said, I'd love to. I said, well, I got to tell you up front now, I'm married. She said, now she began to stutter. She said, if I know you're married, I won't even dance with you. Why do you think I would go out with you? I said, wait, hold on. You're getting way ahead of my pay grade here. I said, I am married today. Thursday, I'm getting my divorce. Sounds like a line even now. My divorce. And by Saturday, I'll be a free man. I'll even have extra money for a date. And she said, because I was paying alimony to my first wife for no apparent reason. She had a better attorney than I did.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
So, so I showed up at the door I didn't have flowers and candy. I had my papers that showed me I was divorced.
Right.
And so we went out, we went dancing, and then we danced the night away, and then we started going out a couple times a week. Then it was almost every night.
Oh my goodness, it's getting hot. It's getting hot.
I thought, who was that said they were not going to, oh, never mind. It wasn't important. So
you married it, but you married this woman.
Later that year, we got married.
That's beautiful. But
1960.
Bud, we have run out of time.
Surely not.
I'm not kidding you. I told you it goes really fast. And
Yes,
I want to kind of just let my viewers know that you have been watching my interview with James Bud Holcomb out of Atlanta, Georgia. He is fast approaching 89. He's the oldest life insurance agent in the state of Georgia. And I would submit, and he's in active practice right now. And a remarkable man with a remarkable history over 50 years in agency ownership and all the above, love of his life, longtime married man. And again, just age is nothing but a number, folks. It's nothing but a number. Live your lives. My gosh, stop looking at other people and feeling anything other than grateful that God has given you breath to breathe and a life to live. Live your lives, and if you feel down-spirited, play Bud's interview with me and get rejuvenated all over again. Who knows what you'll find dancing? I'm Michelle Graves. I thank you for being a part of my conversation today with Bud Holcomb in honor of Life Insurance Month in the United States of America. Thank you so much for being a part of my wonderful world of people, and I do wish you a wonderful and very blessed day. You take care. Love you. Bye-bye.
You still there?